Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Pod. I'm Andy Ryan, Big Jim and Goodey with me as usual. We're going to take a close look at all the major incidents in the British and Irish Lions' second test defeat to South Africa this week. Then, of course, we're going to focus on the epic deciding third test and what changes Warren Gatland should make. So settle back, enjoy, and make sure you're subscribed to Spotify. How's your week been, lads?
Oh, up and down, boys, up and down. It's been a hell of a week, actually, for some good reasons and some bad reasons. And
go the good reasons, and then
the good reason. Well, we did the Rugby Pass fan zone live on Thursday night, and I absolutely dominated the press-up challenge.
Couldn't believe it.
Some wannabe fat Owen Farrell comes up to me. He's like, "Oh, I'll take Goodey on the press-up challenge." I just schooled him. Literally, I was taking. We got to 26, and I'm just looking at him, going, "Come on, son, keep going." Just absolutely destroyed him on the press up. So if you haven't seen it on my social media channels, AndyGoo10 on Twitter or Goodey10 on Instagram, have a look. I just put the kid to bed, didn't I? Night, night, son. Get your chins, put them back in the bag and take them home with you.
I'll be honest with you, Andrew. I did not have you down as a man that could press up. But looking back through your medical history, your shoulders have been all right. You've got a massive belly button, so it bounced off the floor.
I've had a shoulder reconstruction.
All right, well, I've had 4. I ain't moaning. Jesus, I can do it. And, I mean, how many press-ups did you do? Was it 28, was it?
No, I stopped at 30, but I could have kept going.
You could. That's the thing, you could. When was the last time you've done a press-up?
I think we did a challenge didn't we do a challenge in lockdown? 26 press-ups or something in 26 seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah, actually, you could be right. I mean,
a charity. I dominated that as well, really.
Have you got history of doing press-ups? Not is that an exercise that you would be like, I'm strong in that exercise, in that genre? Press-ups, Goodey, like obviously eating's one, tweeting's another.
Yeah.
And
drinking,
press-ups. Yeah. Drinking. Smoking. I mean, it's press-ups in that kind of list of things where you'd be like, if you would say to the missus, right, these are the top 10 things I'm good at, right? Drinking, smoking, eating, tweeting.
I'll be honest, there ain't many right now, yeah, but carry on.
But is press-ups in that or not? Would you say, like, to the girls, your dad's good at press-ups?
No, I wouldn't, James. But what I do know is when I do go to the gym, which will come into reasons why I've not been going to the gym recently in a minute, but I do basically bench, shoulders, guns, triceps, a couple of press ups here and there. So I just knew I had it. I knew I had it in me. It's all upper body.
Why do you do that? Yeah, why do you do
the easy
ones?
Upper body, because it's chest, shoulders, arms. Chest, shoulders, arms. Andy Rowe Stagder. I don't worry about the Ned Kelly. I don't worry about doing abs because.
No, you don't.
no shit. Nor do you, James. To be honest. But yeah, it was an interesting week. Started off, and we rewind a week, and we were chatting on the podcast. I was talking about kidney stones, and I said on here that I had kidney stones, and I've been told by my female doctor that having kidney stones is worse pain than giving birth to a child, which I didn't agree. But the amount of people that have come at me on social media over the last week and saying, "Yeah, Andy, I heard what you said, completely agree with you," both men and women who have had them. Anyway, I was feeling all right last Monday. Tuesday was a down day. I wasn't feeling great. I felt like the missus had stabbed me again. And the pain was unbearable at times. So eventually on Wednesday, I go and see a specialist, a urologist. And I said, listen, I feel like not only I've been stabbed in the back, but I'm also having my right testicle trampled on 24 hours a day, which can't be nice. I'll be honest.
So trampled, what would you say? Trampled on?
Trampled on, yes, James. And the pain was at times unbearable. And he said, right, we'll put you in for a CAT scan. So we've had a CAT scan.
Is that why they scan cats today?
They scan cats, yeah. They scan cats.
Makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense.
So I took the cat, and the cat got scanned as well. And anyway, so he said, just hang around, and we'll go through the pictures and see how bad it is. He's called me into his office after he's looked at the CAT scan.
Now get this line right, Andrew. Now don't lie on this line. Get it right.
What line?
The gastric band split. It had nothing to do with the kidney. Yes or no?
No, there's no gastric band, James, as you know. And I've got in to see him, and he's like, Mr. Good, how have you not gone to A&E over the last 5 days? I said, what do you mean? Because you've got a 20 millimeter kidney stone that has gone out your kidney, gone out your kidney and into your urethra, and it's blocked.
Yeah, but a millimetre is tiny.
I'm like, 20 mil, that's
20
tiny.
millimeters.
I'm like, that's not big, mate. That's nothing. He's like, honestly, I'm so shocked you haven't gone to A&E with the pain you'd have been. And I said, listen, I work week in, week out with one of the hardest to ever done it. He may say it himself. His uncle Hamish may say it as well. But he claims to be one of the hardest to have ever played the game, one of the hardest ever podcasters. And that's what I said to him. And he said, who is it? I said, well, he's a ex-Scottish rugby player. Played for Saracens as well. He's like, Scott Murray. I said, no, not Scott Murray.
What?
I said, have another guess. He's like, Tim Swinson. I said, no, not Tim Swinson. I said, I'll give you one more guess. He's like, I'm all out of Scottish second rows hard lads that play for Saracens in Scotland. I was like, Jim Hamilton. He looked at me and went, who?
The hero.
I said, Big Jim, the legend. Him and his uncle Hamish said he was the best and the hardest to ever do it. And he didn't know who you were, Jim, to be honest. But so that was Wednesday. And then Thursday, he said, look, I need you in for an operation tomorrow. But I said, no. I can't do it, pal. I've got the Rugby Patch Fan Zone live at Harpenden Rugby Club on Thursday evening, where it transpires that I had to dominate someone in a physical activity. And he told me, don't do anything too strenuous, be careful. He gave me some suppositories to put up the rear end just in case the pain got too unbearable, but I didn't use them.
You did. Well, I put one up before the show because I couldn't have it passing out on me. So I did enjoy it.
And then I just dominated that geezer on the press-up challenge, and then went in for surgery on Friday and had the kidney stone removed. They've left a stint in. So I've got another operation in a couple of weeks. But more importantly, I understand now what it's like to be a woman. And I don't say that lightly, right?
Andrew, you've been wearing a bra for 10 years. I know you do.
I understand. So my missus obviously has had twins. I speak to the nanny. My nanny's got children. And women, I don't know if it's the same for your Mrs. Jim, but they're always moaning that they need the bathroom. So we'll get in the car. Mrs. like, I need the loo. We have to pull over somewhere.
This is all true. I agree. We're agreeing now.
I'm sat there going, we just left the house and you've done a week. I can't go at the minute more than 10 or 15 minutes without thinking I'm desperate for the toilet. And then the tiniest bit of dribble comes out, which is it's still got a bit of blood in it, to be honest.
Oh.
And
what kind of blood?
That was my
As in
week.
blood?
No, well, blood, but not when a bloke says there's a bit of blood in there. I don't mean like that, James. I just mean that things are coming out from the inside still. So it's been a tough week. I watched the game in hospital. I don't want people to feel sorry for me. Couldn't be down the pub with all the lads like Jim was. Watched the test match in hospital. Came out late Saturday evening, and grafted through. And I'm back on the pod on a Monday. So I'm here. I've had the biggest kidney stone to ever been seen. Apparently, I didn't go to A&E. I work with the hardest bloke there is in the podcasting world, and I'm dominate press-up challenges. So that was my week. And also, the Lions had their pants pulled down. So it ended in a downer as well, didn't it, lads?
Andrew, I'm not even going to tell you about my week because yours has been that eventful that I just want to stick on that. Because Thursday, the way that I'm seeing this unfold, now, if you're saying it as bad as it is, and if it's 20 millimeters, that sounds small. You've gone for a cat meow scan, and you sent me the picture, and my goodness me, I thought that they were your bollocks inside, but it turns out it was your stomach. He sent me a picture of the cat scan. I was like, "What is that round thing?" Turns out it's its stomach. It's the size of a basketball. But on Thursday, you've turned up with a Marlboro Light in hand and 2 bags of beef Walker's Crisp in the other hand, and you've drank 2 or 3 pints. You said they were shandy, irrelevant, and you've done 28 press-ups. You're sweating profusely. 30. You've done 30, and all that time, you should have been in hospital. You are one of the most professional humans I know.
Just couldn't let the Rugby Pass boys. It was your show, Jim. I didn't want to let you down. There was obviously a bit of drama with Stevie Ferris, his missus, going into labour and off on and all that stuff. So Stevie, I just couldn't pull out on you, Jim. I'm here for you 24/7. Whenever you need me, apart from when I got to have the kidney stone taken out again in a couple of weeks, I'm there for you, James.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You blow my mind.
It was a good night, and your hosting was unbelievable. Andy Rowe, you want to watch out.
Oh, I've seen him. Very, very good.
He's after your job as well, I think.
Well,
multilingual.
He's a very, very skilled man. Professional. From one professional to another. Rassie Erasmus, what do you make of his hosting, his 62-minute video?
I love a bit of drama.
Yeah,
I did as well. And I don't know what other people have made of it. Well, I do. Well, I don't. You can't go based on the comments that you see on social media, because there is this argument that 80%, I'm throwing a stat out there, it could be 3%. I'm saying it's 83% of people on social media making comments about things that, it's almost like passive aggressive. And I ain't flinching, lads, I'll be honest. I ain't flinching with that.
You wouldn't flinch.
But I just wouldn't. But I'm looking at it, I'd be like, why are these people being so like horrible? They might not be. It might be just like the way that I'm reading it. But I'm loving all this drama. I'll be honest with you. And Andrew, without speaking for you, you made a great point. And I'm going to put it out to the masses, Andrew, and you can say no comment on this. Goodey's been messaging with Rassie. We were trying to get him on. We were trying to get him on the podcast. Obviously, he wouldn't come on. He's changed his tack this week off the back of Goodey, not supporting him, but saying, and this is Goodey's line, and this is where it's come from, as in there's many forms of media. There's written media. There's obviously interviews, video media, podcast media. He's using a media that is available to him for free. There's no rules or regulations around him using that media. There might be around what he said. I don't really know. I've not looked at any law books or whatever, but we will see. But Andrew made a really good point, and that encouraged Rassie. What's nice is that he sees it, and to message Goodey, and they've been, I'm jealous. Andrew, can you say that you've been messaging the fourth best coach in the world or not?
Well, I'd say he's the best coach in the world, isn't he? Because he's a World Cup winning coach. But
no, Scott Robertson's the best one, and then Mike Brewer, and then my Uncle Hamish, who coaches local junior club in Edinburgh, because he said I was one of the best, and then Rassie.
There we go. Listen, I did a piece of Rugby Pass on it, and I said, you know what? It is another form of media, isn't it? So there's all this moaning around, Rassie. The only thing I'd say about it, Rassie, 62 minutes, a little bit too long. I mean, I was laid up in bed with kidney stones, so I had plenty of time to go through it bit by bit, minute by minute. But 62 minutes, it was long. So I'd have edited it down a little bit, but I get his sentiment, right? They're in a test series where Warren Gatland has come out the week before and absolutely gone wild about the fact that Marius Jonker was named as TMO, and that was a perceived advantage that was given, or in Rassie's mind, he feels the Lions got a perceived advantage by that in a roundabout way, where some of the decisions, rightly or wrongly, went against the Springboks in the first test and went in favour of the British and Irish Lions. And you can't get away from that. The tries that we spoke about last week, the rub of the green, and whether it was conscious or subconscious, no one knows. But Rassie is sat there in, do or die test match week, thinking, I need to do something. If I do something, the written press, does it have an effect? Probably not. And he controlled what he can control. And actually, when you go through the video, it's very educational for your average rugby fan, for your pundit.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, for your rugby player to actually see the detail. And I did find it really interesting. We all sit here and think we all know about the little individual nuances of everything to do with the game. Well, a coach and I who's living and breathing it, and someone as detailed as Rassie Erasmus, he's going to pick up a lot of stuff that we didn't pick up on because he's watching it. A coach probably watches the game 5 or 6 times after the game. We watch it once, we might watch it again and clip up some highlights and stuff, but then you park it because you've just made your opinion on it. As a coach, you're living and breathing it. And he's taken it upon himself to kind of change the dimension of what's being discussed, control the narrative of the week to say, listen, the Springboks were hard done by, because they were. Is it the right channel to go down World Rugby? Well, let's just put it out there. And I did the piece for Rugby Pass, and I said that I found it educational and I quite enjoyed it. And people said, if Eddie Jones had done that, you'd have gone mad. I said, well, no, Eddie Jones said when Ben O'Keefe refereed England against Wales a couple of years ago that it was like 16 against 13 at times. Now, Rassie didn't go that hard at the referee. He just spelt out where he felt there was a lack of respect for Sia Khaleesi, but also all the components of what could have been and should have been penalties or decisions going in South Africa's favour. And, I don't have a problem with it. If coaches, a lot of coaches go, I wouldn't do that. Well, fine, you don't have to do it. But Rassie wanted to do it. He changed the kind of dynamic of the conversation that week. Things went for the Springboks, and let's make no bones about it. We're going to discuss them on here. Some horrific decisions for me from the referees and the TMO around what was, Ches and Colby. It's a straight red card every day of the week for the tackle in the air of Conor Murray, but also his tackle about 10 minutes before that on Tom Curry when he face planted him. It wasn't even looked at properly. So, there's loads of discussion points, but things went in favour of the Springboks this week. And I said, Rassie will either come out with egg on his face because it won't matter and the Springboks will lose, and it'll look like sour grapes, or it'll be a stroke of genius. And he's got his team back into a mindset where they're now level in the series. That second half was so dominant physically that they are ahead of the Lions in terms of the stakes now. I know it's 1-1, but in terms of momentum, they're way ahead of where the Lions are. And a lot of that is to do with him changing the dynamic of the conversation, putting out there the video, and whether people like it or not, social media, Twitter, podcasting, Instagram, all the different social channels. People don't read newspapers anymore, do they? So if you go and want to do an interview in a newspaper, you're not having as much impact as you are on something on social media. So why shouldn't he use social media as a tool to try and change the narrative of the week? And it worked for him. He sent me a message, just saying thank you for being level-headed with it all, because obviously people lost their heads left, right, and centre. I was trying to be as level-headed as I could. It's my opinion. My opinion, does it matter to people? Probably not. It doesn't even matter in my own household, let alone outside of it. But the reality of it was, it has an impact. And I've done a piece of Rugby Pass. I've given a level-headed answer. I think it was educational, a little bit long, but he's controlling the narrative for his team that week, and it's worked for him. So fair play to him. Coaches use all sorts of tricks. Let's not think this is new. Coaches use all sorts of tricks in the week with different forms of media to try and get a 1 or 2 or 3% advantage at the weekend, and that was Rassie's way this week, and it worked.
My big question is, did he ask for me when he messaged you or not?
No, he didn't, Jim. He didn't.
No, he didn't. And I think, he's coming on the podcast, because I'll put that on social.
He said he'll come on. He did say he'll come on, just not during the series.
Well, I'm not too sure. My worry is because I'm a little bit different to yours, Andrew. I did tweet that I thought it sounded a little bit bitter. Now, we are going over our old ground, and we're paying a lot of lip service to something that is old ground now, because there's so much to talk about. So I felt it came across as a little bit bitter. And I also love the fact that he said that it wasn't on Springbok time, it was in his spare time, but he was wearing a Springbok jersey. But it must have been in his spare time, because there was no edit done. My big thing around it, and this probably leads us into the second test, is there is a humongous, is there a bigger word than humongous? Gymongous gulf between...
Gymongous?
Yeah, whatever that is. Juganormous, whatever. Jugasaurus. Whatever it is, there's something wrong with the referees in terms of the quality. Now, I don't know whether it's because the game is so difficult to consume in terms of there's loads going on. Loads went on in that match. Obviously, Rassie put it out there on social. We saw it. We were talking about it last week. This week, you could arguably say there was a load more stuff. Do you know what I mean? And if Gats wants to do it, I don't know how tech-savvy Gats is, whether or not he... Sorry, I'll just say it again. I don't know how tech-savvy Gats is, whether or not he'd be able to produce a video in his spare time, whether he'd want to. I doubt he'd want to. But this brings us on...
With his top off or not?
I would doubt it, no, unless he wants to rest the others on the table. I don't know how that would work. But I can't believe how many things are happening in the game. And I thought, I tweeted it. I said, I don't know how you be a ref. Look at the stuff that went on in the game. And it's twofold, isn't it? One is because it's such a high-level game. You've got two physical teams and the way that South Africa play. But is it really that difficult? I think it is. I think it is. But it shows that there's a big issue in rugby at the minute about the quality of the referees, whether or not the quality isn't good enough or whether the rules and the laws aren't clear enough. I don't know what it is. Speaking
of the niggle, let's talk about the on-field, the second test. How much of a psychopath is even Etzebeth when he's like smiling at every single fisticuffs or shirt pulling?
Hold on. Before you say it, Jim, you wouldn't even flinch, right?
Well, he weren't smiling at me. That's all I know. That's all it is, though, isn't it? I was listening to Hask talk about it. I don't know whether he was talking to me about it. He was getting fired up about it. But he was like, it's true, isn't it? It's kind of like, who can grab the shirt the hardest and march you back the hardest? Well, looking at Eben versus Marrow, it was Eben because he marched it back about 25 metres, hold on to his shirt. But I don't imagine if you've got a bicep that big that you're getting any bend of the elbow unless you decide to bend your own elbow. So that's what it is, isn't it? I think it's almost like it's just a waste of time, but I love it. I'll be honest, I've taken a bit of heat on social. I loved the game at the weekend. For whatever reason, it brought me back to who I used to be. Just a shirt-grabbing, filthy animal. I loved it. I did, but that's ultimately comes down again to the referees and everything and the build-up and the way that South Africa play. Like, there was so much going on and off the ball. We mentioned Cheslin Colby. I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't think it was a red card, Goodey.
No,
really?
Because,
how's it not? Right, explain to me how it's not a red card then.
He's looking at the ball the whole way.
Doesn't matter. Does not matter. In the law book, it does not matter.
Okay, so Jim, you talk us through why you don't think it's a red card, and then Goodey, you give us the law behind it.
This is why. So when it happened, I was like, that for me isn't a definite red, and I hope it's not a definite red for the sake of the game, but also because personally, I felt that it weren't a red. So I'm looking at Colby. And he isn't a dirty player, albeit he made a high tackle before. Similar to Faf de Klerk, they're not dirty players. They're players that are small and physical. Look at the way that Colby competes for the high ball. He's one of the best players ever to have played for the ball in the air.
I know, but it doesn't matter who you are.
But But I'm building up. I'm building up in terms of like where my thought process is. And then Colby, I think he wants to jump. I think he would normally jump, but because Bigger's in front of him as a kind of block, and he's got his eyes on the ball, he probably thinks he's under the ball. Do you know what I mean? So I know what you're saying. I've seen loads of decisions gone by where that is straight away red. The player's almost walking off the pitch because he knows it's a red. But I just think the way he didn't land on his head, and I know he didn't land on his head because he put his arm out, so therefore he didn't land on his head. I think if he got a red card, it would have been extremely harsh. I could see why he would have got a red card, but I'm just saying my thought process is Colby, he's looking at the ball the whole way. I think he would have jumped. He normally jumps. Even when it's unlosable, he's normally 20 feet in off the floor. But I don't know. Obviously, my opinion is very different to a lot of other people's opinion. And I suppose if you're from the UK and Ireland, you're thinking one thing. If you're from South Africa, you're thinking another, but a quarter of me is from China, so I'm thinking another.
So did you play in the game Ulster versus Saracens a few years ago? Jared Payne red carded for
Alex Good. No, I didn't. I was on the bench.
Shit, sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't trying to be horrible. It's exactly the same.
You knew that I weren't playing.
No, I just presumed, to be honest. Let's be fair. So it doesn't. First and foremost, it doesn't matter who it is. The fact that Cheslin Colby is one of the best.
Andy Good, they changed after that though. They changed. Like that's when they were going hard out on players being taken out of the air. And if you look what they've done, they've loosened that recently.
What they've done is they've said there's a contest in the air. So Cheslin Colby hasn't got off the deck. So he hasn't tried to compete in the air. Conor Murray has gone and owned that space. And when you're chasing a kick, or when you're receiving a kick, you have to have a conscious understanding of what else and who else is around. So you can't just run after the ball and look at it and just say, I have my eyes on the ball the whole time. There's nothing in the law that states that's a mitigating circumstance. So what it is whoever gets up in the air first and owns the space has the priority to the ball. So if Cheslin Colby had gone up and jumped in the air and he'd have been underneath Conor Murray, and there was a collision in the air, but they're both actually competing for the ball, then it's a different story. Cheslin Colby has just ran and not even thought about the dangers of what he's putting in front of the player who's going for the ball. So he's come down and, okay, he breaks his fall by putting his hand down, but then he lands on his face. So I don't think there's any consequence or mitigating circumstance. The fact that he's put his hand down, he's trying to look after his own safety there, Conor Murray. Facts are, he's got up in the air, Cheslin Colby's come, he's had no appreciation that there's someone up above him. He's had no kind of look away from the ball, which is part of what they're coached now. You have to have a whole 360 peripheral vision of what's around you. And yes, you've got to get off the deck to compete for it. And you do sometimes say it's a rugby collision in the air, but not when you're taking the legs from underneath someone that's jumping and they land face first into the mud.
So why is it not getting a red card then? Well, why is it not getting a red card?
But this is the thing. So you're looking at it, and then there was all the pushing and shoving. And 5 minutes before, Ben O'Keefe has said, pulled both captains to one side and said, any more of that, and I end up going to a yellow card for all the handbags, all the push and shoving. I'm hard. No, I'm harder. No, I'm harder than you. No, my dad's harder than your dad. All that stuff that goes on now because no one can throw a punch. And Haskell talking about it, he's talking about Etzebeth. He was one of the worst for it when fights kicked off because he thought he was big and hard, but never threw a punch. You go back to the Joe Marler thing when Joe Marler squirted water on James Haskell. He
didn't. Oh, yes, he did.
He grabs him by the throat, and then Haskell says to the ref, "He squirted water on me." So, this is the thing. In this day and age where you can't throw a punch, every forward and lots of backs have probably stood there and just held someone out and probably scrum after the worst at it because they used to get a clip. Now they can't get a clip. So they're, you see Faf de Klerk and these boys egging them on because actually, you want someone to lose their shit because then it's definitely a yellow or red card, isn't it? And going back to why didn't he go with the red card? Well,
say it. Have the nuts. Go on. You say it. You're about to say it.
I think he got lost in the fact that he was thinking about, looking at the afters, and then he hasn't really reviewed it properly. And Marius Jonker, who's the TMO, after the pressure that he was put under from Warren Gatland the week before, he's second guessing his. He's second guessing his decisions, and then the pressure that Rassie Erasmus has put back on him in the second week before the test, he's thinking, "Oh, a yellow card. Let's just have a yellow card and get on with it." Whereas,
that's a conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy. What it is because it's such a big game, you still have to have the bottle to make the decision that is right for the good of the game and what Premiership referees are reffing. Top 14. If that's a league game in any league in the world, it's a red card.
Not in France.
Yeah.
Not in France, mate.
Well, maybe
in the top 14, that is probably like play on.
Yeah, it's probably a penalty against Conor Murray for diving or something in the top 14. But I think Elliot Daly got sent off a couple of years ago for England against Argentina for something very similar. And you sat there going, where's the consistency? So you're saying the game's referee, Jim, you're saying the game's very hard to referee, and I completely agree it is. But there's no consistency, which is basically the frustration of fans and players and coaches and Rassie Erasmus, the 62-minute video, and Warren Gatland saying stuff in the press. And that is where we're at with the game now, because there has been no consistency. And World Rugby, and I'm sorry, World Rugby sit behind this banner of We Are World Rugby. What do? They do
content now, Andrew. They do content.
But are they accountable for anything? Where's this fucking world season that was going to be talked about where we were going to align everything?
I love this drama. I'm loving it.
But I love it. But what it does is it allows people to have their own opinions, of course.
How many more followers did you get off the back of it? Andrew, let's talk about how many more followers.
Let me finish this bit. And it allows everyone to have different opinions. And here's me and you, Jim. Jim, like 1 week you're crying for red cards. Next week you're like, no, I don't want to see a red card.
Who's crying for a red card?
and everyone's like, I'm just trying to be consistent. That's been a red card for years. It should have been a red card on Saturday.
But it wasn't a red card. It was
a yellow. It was a yellow. There we go. And the lack of consistency is what is creating a lot of this tension around the world. And and we're locked up still. Are we locked up? I don't know. I've been locked up in hospital, but
you've been locked up. You've been on 4 holidays, so it's very different.
Clubs are open now,
so it's crazy. But that's why we're debating all these points. And imagine being a referee trying to referee 30 screaming cats, which is effectively everyone's appealing for everything over time. And imagine trying to be a fan trying to understand it. Like last week, Springbok fans, Springbok players, Springbok coaches were aggrieved by what had gone on in that game after test
raging.
This week, Lions fans raging. Why hasn't Cheslin Colby been sent off? Then you can pick out all the other stuff, which no doubt we are going to pick out. And that's why there's so much rage around. Everyone's raging.
Well, there are plenty of controversial incidents throughout the whole game, including the footage of Stuart Hogg allegedly biting Willie the Rube. But the citing officer only flagged one thing, and that was the biting charge involving Cole Sinclair. Did you guys notice that?
Who's biting who? Is all I'm saying. Hoggy, the poor lad's getting
who's biting?
Open. Who's biting who?
Where's Ashley?
Who's biting Willie Lepoo? No one. There's a still frame that's going round. I don't know. All this drama. I've known Hoggy for years. I mean, he's a hangman, and I don't imagine him eating anyone. I know no one in the game that would want to eat him. That's for sure. So thankfully, he's not been cited from a personal point of view. Did not see Carl Sinclair. Biggest moment of his life going on the tour. Didn't see it. But he's been cited. If you've been cited, there's something there. And I can't see anything. I've gone through the archives. I go through the archives. It's very different to my good mate Andy Goodey going through the archives. He can always find things in the archives. Andrew, have you got anything?
Well, I mean, Hoggy's one is quite interesting. Hoggy's one, obviously, you know, a camera angle can make it supposedly look like he's bitten him. I don't think he did. Obviously, there was a statement from the British and Irish Lions that came out on Sunday evening from Hoggy and the management saying that Stuart Hogg would never bite. So I completely believe him. Billy LaRue hasn't come out and said he bit me. So, you know, I think that one's parked. The interesting one is obviously Carl Sinclair. Now, we'll come on in a minute to the other things that could have been cited, but the one that has been cited, Carl Sinclair biting Mostert, and you look back on it and you watch the video, you can't really see anything in it in terms of a bite. What you can see is Mostert's arm in clearing out Carl Sinclair is across his face. And doing a bit of digging and research and listening back, Mostert goes to Khaleesi and says, I've been bitten. Khaleesi goes to Ben O'Keefe and says, Mostert's been bitten on the foot. There's only Carl Sinclair in that ruck. And he shows, apparently, Mostert shows Ben O'Keefe and talks to him about the bite. And Ben O'Keefe says, nothing I can do about it now. There's no angle. It's for later on and we'll deal with it later down the line. So,
how ironic though, Ben O'Keefe, my old teeth, is involved in this. I'm just saying,
I see what you're saying there. So, you know, the facts are that Mostert's gone to Khaleesi and the referee and said he's been bitten. In that ruck, the only player from the British and Irish Lions that could have been anywhere near it, and it shows that his head is right by his arm, is Carl Sinclair. So, to be cited, there has to be enough evidence to show that should have been a red card. And from what I believe, the citing officer has got more angles than what we've been privy to off the sometimes pretty poor angles that we've been sent from South Africa via Sky Sports.
Pretty poor.
Because, well, I'm trying to be nice, Jim. Yeah, some of them are shocking. So we haven't gone into, and again, you go back to what we compare in the Premiership and Europe and the Pro 14 and Top 14. Actually, let's leave out the Top 14 because some of their angles are awful. They normally just look for like a shot of the sun somewhere as opposed to the actual ruggers. But we go into proper detail, don't we? And referees take their time and look at every possible angle. But obviously there are things that have to be left for a TMO to look at. And yeah, you just hope that if he has bitten him, there's actual proof of it. And that sounds weird to say, but it's one of those things when an accusation's made and there's no telling sort of video evidence, you just hope that it's been made, the accusation's been made. And as a player, if you haven't done it, it's hard to get away from that. Hoggy has gone out straight away and said, categorically, I didn't bite him. I never would do that. We've heard nothing on the Carl Sinclair one. So does that suggest that there is a bit of guilt there? Because why is Hoggy saying that he didn't bite? Yet Carl Sinclair, who's been cited for it, they haven't said anything. There's clearly enough evidence for the citing officer to say that a disciplinary hearing needs to happen and the threshold of what is a red card has been passed through. So, yeah, I mean, if he's done it, you've got to go hard at him. There's no two bones about it. If you're bitting someone, what have you said before, Jim? Biting and grabbing someone's nuts, or the two things, and spitting or whatever.
Gouging.
You know,
yeah. Someone's tried to grab my nuts before, and there was nothing there in the game because it was -10. But I don't imagine that feels good. But Andrew, this is like Cluedo. This is like really. I know it's obviously a serious point, but are you good at Cluedo or not? You know, like Christmas, you play Cluedo in that because genuinely, if you were representing me as prosecutor or lawyer, you just explain it so clearly. I think that you get me off or put me to jail.
I'd send you down, Jim. All the little ruckuses that you've been in your life, mate. If you'd have had me as your QC, you'd have gone down, son. I'd have sent you down.
QC, that's the one. QC.
Yeah, so it's difficult, isn't it? So we're making opinions now on a podcast. The hearing is on Tuesday. Clearly, the facts are the TMO thinks there's enough evidence there, whether it's video evidence, whether it's physical evidence, that Mostert was bitten. And that's gone through the threshold of a red card. So a citing and a independent judicial hearing needs to be had. And yeah, it's a minimum 12-week ban, isn't it? When you're looking at the sanctions that World Rugby have got out there for biting. He's obviously got banned previously. He got done for gouging 4 years ago. So it's not great for Carl Sinclair. You know, if he is found guilty, and I sincerely hope it hasn't happened, of course I do, but if he is found guilty of biting and there's evidence, then a long ban's coming, and it's crazy. And you think back to the tears of the interview when he didn't get selected, and then the great feeling around him then getting selected off the back of Andrew Porter's injury, to then go and bite someone in the second test if you have done that. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Talk to me about friend of the show, Faf de Klerk's tackle on Conor Murray. Was he lucky or unlucky, or was he lucky not to be red carded?
No.
I thought he was all right.
Yeah,
he's lucky in terms of if he's gone any higher, then he's going to be sent off. But like that's the thing with these guys, Goodey, isn't it? Like they're risking it themselves. But if you watch the way that South Africa tackle, all of them, all the way back to guys like Schalk when I was playing, like they tackle high, they go out and try and monster people. Now there's a risk air with that, isn't there? And Faf de Klerk, we mentioned it. The Springbok A/Springbok's first test that wasn't a test, and there was all the talk around him hitting Josh Navidi close to the try line. Yeah, and he's gone out in a obviously slightly different tackle, but similar aggression close to the try line. So that's obviously in him, and he's taken the risk. And again, the camera angles, it's really hard. Like Goodey said, look, we've got to call it how it is. There's not enough camera angles. There's not enough like replays and stuff like that to be able to pass judgment. So the way that we know is the aftermath of the sighting. So if someone's not been cited, then obviously the law book says globally from World Rugby who are creating content that it's all right.
And then there was Mara's knee.
Oh, Jim. It's not a great look, is it?
I'm a difficult person to ask these questions to, because when I'm looking at them unfold, genuinely, and I know this is part of my history as a rugby player and the way that I played the game and the way that I see the game and the physicality in the game, and having watched the game last week and you're watching stuff off the ball, the weird thing around Maro's knee, in my opinion, is it's unlike Maro. So you're wondering whether him getting marched back by Eben Etzebeth with that giant bicep has rolled him. You don't know what's been said. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on. I mean, I can speak Afrikaans. I don't think he can. Is it unlike Maro, though? That is, I think, like putting a knee on the face of someone. Yes, I think it is a little bit unlike it.
The whole grappling and holding boys back and boys down, that's him down to a T.
No, exactly.
Taking it to another level.
Yeah, exactly. He's taken it to another level because I think he's probably lost his head as well. Like a number of people lost their head in that game, clearly. Do you know what I mean? You could see people losing their shit who you might say would not normally lose their shit. Imagine what the bench was doing. Do you know what I mean? Some of the people on the bench. And you've seen it before, Goodey. You've got physios who are women on the side of the pitch sometimes, screaming and shouting and like going mad, which is not in their personalities in teams that I've been involved in. So these things that are going on off the ball and the grabbing and not, I'm going to say the dark arts, not that Maro's thing is a dark art, but I quite like, for me, that's kind of like you're drawn into that against South Africa. It's like, right, if you're going to fucking pin me down, if you're going to put your knee on my head or on my chest or whatever, you're going to grab me or whatever, or pull me out down by the hair or pull me down by the scrum cap or whatever, then I'm doing it to you. And I suppose that Maro's looked uncomfortable and looked awkward, maybe because he doesn't do stuff like that and it looks kind of out of sync. But I agree, it was wrong, mate. You can't knee on people's throats, can you?
No. And I then the theatrics afterwards when obviously Diolande gets up and shoves him and then Maro's got his hands in the air diving. But that is, I think a lot of that ball's, again, back down to the referee and how if he stamps stuff out early, you ain't getting that.
Lost complete control of it. That was the thing. But again, going back to my tweet, like how do you ref that? Because really, your TMO needs to call that in. And it was Marius Jonker again. It was Marius Jonker again, was it? But the fact, let me just say, but the fact that Marius Jonker's been called out, imagine the week that he's had, and you're having to call out all these things. Maro Itoje, man of the match, top 3 players in the world. Oh, he's just been done for kneeing on opposition's neck. He needs to be sent off. Oh, fucking hell, let's get him off.
Yeah, well, it's not sending off.
But you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, you could be calling everything. So
that was the game, wasn't it? That was
a difficult one. Yeah, that was it.
Well, we can get a South African point of view now with 2019 World Cup winning Springbok. Schalk Brits joins us. How are you, mate?
I'm fantastic, thank you.
Sculler, are you fantastic? Like, how happy are you? I mean, you're always happy. Were you happy after the first test, or are you happier now because you and your team that you love so much won the second test, or are you just happy in general?
Jim, where we are quite different, winning and losing influence your personality. Where winning and losing was just part of life for me, Jim. And for me now, seeing you without a lot of hair and that hair thinning out is actually it's so nice to see.
That's why you're happy. That's the reason why, because it's my demise.
No, it's just good seeing you guys again.
And how is life over there, mate? Obviously retired now, you're in the media, doing really well with Channel 4 and that stuff. The big boys are on the touchline, aren't they? There's you, Brian Habana, I saw Schalk Burger, saw Victor Matfield as well. You are loving life in retirement, aren't you? That smile is still beaming very strongly.
No, it's actually, I had to ask permission. So I'm trying to do the corporate thing, and that's quite different to my normal day job. And the Channel 4 guys couldn't travel out, so they sort of, I'm a stand-in, helping out kind of type of guy. So not really involved in media at all.
Scholar, let's get straight into the bones of the media. Now, I don't know whether Rassie Erasmus has texted you this week, but he's texted Goodey, so he's obviously looking at the stuff that we're doing over here in the UK. What has been made of it? I know we are going back, but we haven't, we need to speak to someone from South Africa around it. Did he go a bit too far, do you think, with it? Or are people loving it? Or were there a few eyebrows raised? Because there's a part of it where there's a stroke of genius now in hindsight. But when you saw it, I don't know how much you looked at it. I know you love your ruggers and you love going into depth about it. But have you seen it? And were you looking at it and being like, what are you doing, Rassie? Or you been like, this is genius, I know what he's doing here?
Jim, like when analysing lineouts, you were more focused in the depth of a lineout, who jumps where. For me, it was just about playing the game, and for me, it's actually the personalities of our coaches is part and parcel. The refs are now a personality, not just a random guy running around with a whistle. So I like the build-up. It feels like almost like in the olden days. Now it's like a boxing match. All the smack talk beforehand, trying to influence the refs. And unfortunately, they make a massive impact on the results of a game. We would like to think they don't, but they do. If they make bad decisions, then everybody sees it. And if they make good decisions, it's just part and parcel of the game. Stroke of genius, I do not know. For me, personally, I would like coaches and refs not to be part of 15 guys or 30 guys rather, having a proper go at each other. But unfortunately, this is not reality. In hindsight, yes, I'm sitting on the fence. It was a stroke of genius. It did it impact the game? I don't know. The box played well. Gatland first.
Did it impact the game? Did it impact the game? Do you think it impacted the game?
Definitely. I've never heard. I mean, we said will he be biased? It was almost like the questions he asked was so diplomatic and so structured. And I mean, the question was with Willie offside. The try was awarded. He asked, "Is there any reason not to award the try?" I mean, you want a clear and obvious then decision. And I think from both ways, there was being some very interesting decisions. I mean, Willie's tackle on Willie could have been a card. Cheslin's tackle could have been a card. There's so many things that happen in the game that could have been gone either way. But we're sitting here. This is where I wanted it. 1-1. Going to the final, two great teams. I don't think that they, from a strategic point of view, will change anything. They're just going to have the guy that can dominate the advantage line, the tactical kicking, and put the set piece under pressure. That's a team that will win.
I do love the way you've gone into the corporate world, and the corporate speak is just flowing out of you now, mate. It's sitting on the fence when you have to. I sometimes do that in my corporate role as well. Let's talk about South Africa then as a country at the minute, because obviously after week one, there was a lot, and it came out in Rassie's video, a lot of fans and players potentially and coaches felt that they didn't get the rub of the green. Now I'm sat here in just outside London at the minute, and over on this side in the British and Irish Lions aisles, we are feeling that we didn't get the rub of the green this weekend. Are the Springbok players, fans, pundits yes, South Africa deserved to win that game, hands down. But there was some instances where they got the rub of the green. Are you feeling it that this week? Feeling a little bit lucky, or was it all just about performance?
I think both. If we have to be fair, from an unbiased perspective, yes, the first test match, the Lions just played better. The second test match, the Springbok played better. Yes, there was things that could have gone either way, but it didn't. It doesn't help you reminisce or about the past or talk about what should have been and what shouldn't have been. Now it's a third test match. Now the question is, how, with Dwayne coming back in, can we still get the dominance we had in the second test? And the Lions would say, okay, fine. We got the 50-50s we got wrong from an aerial perspective. They outplayed us. And the South Africans will go, we got outplayed in the second half. The first half, I thought this of the first test match, the Springboks played well. The second half, they came out, they had more urgency, more physicality. They dominated South Africa from a set-piece perspective. Maro took it, Elwyn Jones, they drove the South Africans that I haven't seen in a very long time. And exactly what happened after the second test match, first half, it was so physical, so niggly, but so boring. Then the second half came out, and everything that the Lions did in the first test and the second half to the Springboks did to the Lions in the second test and the second half.
Do you think it was boring? Because I'm watching that and we're talking about it as in I loved watching it. Lots of people, Sculler, and we obviously play very similar in terms of footwork and speed and all these things off the mark. But I love watching it. I mean, how would you enjoy playing in that? Like, because that's the way the Springboks play. Is it enjoyable? Or are you thinking, my goodness me, like get it out of the mall? Well, I know you did because you used to break out and people are screaming for you to stay in.
Yeah, well, Jim, it was almost the same as you and Kelly Brown. If it was raining and it was wet and it was muddy and you couldn't pass the ball more than twice, or you have to kick the leather off the ball, then you were so happy. I want to see running rugby. So saying that is, yes, for the guys that was like that kind of rugby, yes, that was brutal, but the second half was much better. And the same, although I was on the losing side on the first test match, the second half was just a better dominance or better spectacle, if I can say that. Hopefully this weekend, I don't think it will be anything different. It's going to be a battle in the first half. The pitch is tearing up. It's a football pitch, not a rugby pitch. It's hard to get dominance, and it's weird without crowds as well, Jim. It is really weird, but it is what it is. You can hear the battles or the collisions, and I guess same as you guys, when you stand next to the pitch, I'm so glad I've retired.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things I was going to ask you, actually. You're one of the very privileged few who are inside the stadium for the games at the minute without being part of either the match day squads or for either team. But what is it like there? Because is it eerie? There has been loads of niggle. There's been, the whole thing with Deolande and Maro having his knee on his neck and then Deolande pushing him. Are you seeing that and getting rolled up as a Springbok fan now, or you kind of got one foot in each camp because you've got mates from Saracens as well?
For me, it firstly going to the match. This was the first test match was the first game that I've watched after the final at the Rugby World Cup, or the Rugby World Cup final against England, and it was just so weird, Andy. Sitting there, you can hear every sound in the stadium. It's what's a 60, 70, 80 capacity stadium, so it's big. It's beautiful, but there's no one there. Yeah. So from that perspective, it's weird. You hear Andy Edwards almost screaming from a defensive perspective. Rassie didn't say anything. I was expecting the water boy to say a lot. And then from that, and it was funny, it's like sort of the Lions non-playing reserves having a proper scream and shout, and then the South Africans having a proper shout, and it's just a weird. I can't get used to it. It's not in my mindset and my perception. Yes, fantastic that the game's going ahead. Thank you for everyone that's organising it, but it shouldn't be played like this. 2009, I can still remember that second test match at Loftus was sea of red, a lot of Springbok supporters. That's how the game should be played, with supporters.
And it's interesting you started talking about the screaming and shouting, because I know you were against that. We'd be whooping and hollering and there'd be shit talk left, right and centre. That's basically what I lived for. Scarlett, how do you think we come out of this in terms of rugby? Because I know that you're big on the game, right? In terms of everything that goes with it, the experiences. You've just spoken about it then, with there being no fans. With all these talking points around the way that the game's played, the attitude of the players, the grabbing, the pulling, the referees, the kind of social media drama that we're seeing, after every Lions tour, rugby comes out better, right? And it grows. We saw that in 2009. We saw that after the World Cup. You know, it's very different now. How do you, all said and done at the weekend, we'll come to what you think about the result and who's going to win the series. How do you think we come out of this in terms of, has the game grown? There'll be a lot of talk over here, Scilla, around the Lions, whether there's still a place for the British and Irish Lions in what is a real hectic global calendar as it is. What do you feel about it all?
Well, firstly, just speaking about the Lions itself, I think there's definitely a place for the Lions, Jim. It is, firstly, it is something very special. I never got the opportunity to play against the Lions except for the Barbarians, as you were there.
Yes, I was kind of there.
How bad was Jim then? How bad was Jim then?
But saying that, Jim, is if I speak to the players, to Dwayne Vermeulen yesterday, you've got one opportunity probably in your whole career to play against the Lions, and you're very lucky if you can do that and then win. So for speaking to, I had a game of golf last weekend with Schalk Brits and Jean de Villiers, and he said he played 4 World Cups, and the Lions tour was more special, and you've got 12 years of bragging rights. I think it's a very special team, very special organization, and something that we shouldn't lose. For me personally, I would like that most of the work or the talking should be done on the pitch. I do not like Gatland getting involved. I do not like Rassie getting involved. I want the teams to almost box it out or fight it out on the pitch, not literally speaking, but by strategy, by gameplay, by physicality. And that's unfortunately what I do not like about the last couple of weeks. But I felt Gatland had a proper shot, a couple of shots at the ref. Rassie probably thought, okay, well, I got one up, I'm going to pull all. Yeah, he's probably only going to have one opportunity left to play against the Lions again. So he said, well, I'm going to win at all costs, and said, okay, fine, I'm going to put pressure on the rest of Gatland's doing this. So it's tit for tat kind of thing. That's terrible.
I'm glad you said that, Scilla, because you do realise that the likelihood is that me and you are going to be making decisions at World Rugby level probably in the next 2 or 3 years with the way things are going. We are that influential. So I'm glad that you said that there's still a place for the Lions. I'll put that forward. I'll make sure it happens again.
Jim, Scala maybe, he's got the class and the brains. Jim, not so much yourself, mate, not so much yourself. One of the things you did mention there, you said you spoke to Dwayne Vermeulen yesterday. It's great to see him back fit and in the squad. Bit of an inside track. Is he ready to go? Is he just back in the squad as a bit of a pick-me-up for the lads? I know Peter Steph-Toy obviously was carrying a shoulder injury. So I kind of want you to tell me he is fit, but I also kind of want you to tell me he's not, because he's such a great player and it gives the Springboks a massive advantage as well, doesn't it?
I think he's just a world-class player, and he can't. He was my roommate for a long time before he started snoring, and then when he started snoring, I moved over to Vincent Koch, kind of thing. But the people ask, how do you replace Vince? How do you replace Dwayne? You don't. There's certain players in the team during a certain period of his career that is irreplaceable. And Dwayne is currently there. That the kind of how can I say, presence he has in the team is amazing. He's standing next to Sia with a lot of the decisions we're making. Great team man. Great for the ethos of the game. And for me, it's if he's fit and ready, he will be a massive add-on to our group for someone that can carry the ball back from the back, win the aerial contest. I think from a kicking perspective, we lost the aerial battle in the second half of the first test against the Lions, and we got a little bit lucky in the second half, I would say, of the second test match.
Scilla, well, the podcast comes out, mate, when the team should already be out, so it's fine, mate. You give us a bit of insight. But how do you see the third test going then, mate? Because that is obviously what I'm enjoying about it. It is 1-1. but that second game was a hammering, right, for the Lions. Let's be honest, especially that second half. Are you sat back thinking now, if everything goes to plan, it should be comfortable for South Africa, or is there a part of you knowing a lot of these players in the Lions team that they can come back?
Jim, it's all part of the bigger plan. You know, we wanted to give the impression during the World Cup that we lost against New Zealand. We out. Nobody's ever won against a World Cup and they lost the first game. You know, then we went and won the World Cup. We got a bit lucky, but hey, and now the same thing with the Lion Test match. No one's gone and lost the first Test match and won the series. So that's exactly, we record setters. So I've got no doubt.
So humble, big grin on his face, but he is, like, the thing is, he is humble.
I'm only joking. No, it's no. I think it's going to be, once again. I'm going to do what you don't do, and I'm going to say the team that dominates the set piece and the kicking battle and puts pressure on the gain line, that team will win. And I do hope and believe it will be the Springboks this weekend.
Schalk Brits, thank you very much for coming on the show, mate, and best of luck this weekend.
Thanks, guys, and may the best team win, Springboks. But have a good night.
Well, let's talk about selection then, and maybe we change it up this week. I know last couple of weeks you've talked about what you think Warren would pick, what he's going to select the team. Maybe you guys give your opinion on what he should select and what you think should be the team.
He needs to change. Yeah. Oh, it's hard, isn't it? It is hard. He's got to make a change at hooker, I think. Yeah. For whatever reason, it's not working. Now, as much as I want Cowan Dickey in there, as much as I love Ken Owens, the set piece, and like, you need to win 9 out of 10 of your lineouts, 90%. Thank you, Miss Good. You need to win 90% of your lineouts, right? Because you're not going to get many opportunities against South Africa. By having a strong lineout and a strong scrum builds a foundation. Now, that we didn't have at the weekend. We were lucky in the first test. We lost a couple of lineouts in the first half. South Africa were rusty. So I think there needs to be a change at hooker, whether or not that means that Jamie George starts, but I think he definitely comes in.
Wyn Jones is a big one, isn't he?
Say again?
Wyn Jones is a big one in the front row. Like, if he's fit, Wyn Jones has got to start. You know, Mako, okay, did really well coming off the bench in the first test, but you know, Sutherland unfortunately got monstered in the scrums. He knocked the ball on the front of the line out. You know, Wyn Jones
gave a penalty away at the line out as well, which gave them field position.
Wyn Jones is, you know, people ridiculed you, James, for your tweet back in the Six Nations. Wyn Jones will be the starting loosehead in the British and Irish Lions, and he's only not the starting loosehead because of his injury. So if he's back, that's a massive plus for us. And you know, we can definitely hold our own at least at scrum time, which we struggled with in the second test. Yeah,
so I think we all agree that there needs to be a couple of changes in the pack. The back row is an interesting one. Jack Conan, we love him. Will they go with him again, or will they go for size with Faletau? Will he be like, look, mate, Talupe, I need you, mate. I need the biggest game you've ever had. You've proven it before. You're big. You're on the bench. You've not had a lot of game time. I can see Faletau starting. I don't think he'll change Tom Curry. I just don't think he will. Will he go with a Hamish Watson with him? I don't know, because of the line out. It is hard to call. I wouldn't make that many changes. I don't think Alan Wyn-Jones played that well. I'll be honest.
Jim, he was our top tackler. 15 tackles he made.
And how many of them
top
were
tackler?
How many of them were dominant?
If he ain't making them, who's making them? This is the thing. Well, you're just being horrible now, Jim.
I know. So
what about Ty Burn at 6?
Yeah, like you could say that, but for me, it's muchness between him and Laws. When you're up against who you're up against. So I'd love to sit here and give you some clear. My opinions are more in the backs, believe it or not. I think the forwards, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It comes down to making sure you get your line out and set piece right. Scrum was good in test 1, wasn't great in test 2. They've got the ability to do it. If they don't, look at the size of South Africa pack. You could just be like, look, the South Africa have got a better scrum. They've got the best scrum in World Rugby. What can you do? Well, what we can do, if it squirts out the back, we can give the ball to Finn Russell or Marcus Smith. That's where I think. I don't think we want to see scrums. I don't think we want to see lineouts if the Lions are going to win. So it's kind of irrelevant of who you put in the pack, because I think either way they're probably going to get hosed. Like, what you know? That's
a cop out, Jim. Like, you're just trying to put it all on the backs when we all know forwards win games and backs decide by how many. So give us your starting pack, Jim.
Oh, go on then. Wyn Jones,
Yeah, agree.
Jamie George.
Yeah, agree.
Do you? Ty Furlong,
Yeah, agree.
Marrow,
Yeah, agree.
Alan Wyn Jones.
You bottled it. Yeah, you bottled it. Yeah, yeah.
See, I'm doing there what Gats would do. He'd be umming and ahhing, and they'd be like, "No, we've got to play him." I'm going to go Ty Burn.
Agree.
I'm going to go Hamish Watson.
Agree.
Whoa.
Do you? And I'm going to go Talupe Faletau.
Agree.
Yes.
My team right there, James. That's my forward pack. That's what I'd go with as well. I'd have Sam Simmons on the bench as well for some oomph.
Goodey, let's talk about the backs then, mate. Any changes there?
Yes, a couple actually.
How many? 2 or 4? I've gone for 4.
I've gone for 1, 2, 3, 4 as well, James.
Okay.
I'm going Ali Price at 9. I liked his energy when he got the opportunity in the first test. Obviously got dropped for the second test to the bench for Conor Murray that didn't add enough oomph for me. So Ali Price goes back in at 9.
Correct. I want to see if we are aligned at 10.
I don't think we will be. I'm sticking with my my favourite, Dan Biggar. Dan Biggar at 10 for me still.
I'm going to go Owen Farrell at 10.
I think he might do that, but I don't see it as justified in terms of performance. And
I think Owen's looked good when he's come on.
Mm.
That's why.
Okay, what happened at the weekend? We did 1 kick.
Yeah, it wasn't just. It was a good kick. As in, every time Owen's come on, I felt like he looks like he's back. As in a big game player. Not that Biggar isn't, but I think Biggar's injured. I'll be honest with you. He's obviously he didn't train all week last week. He got blitzed in the back. I know how it feels. He's obviously on the floor. He's trapped a nerve or whatever. He's been hit in the back.
Maybe it's the kidneys. Maybe he's got big stones.
Well, as you know, Andrew, if he has, then there's a reason why he's on the floor. Biggs is my favourite player. I'm saying what I think Gats will do, and it can understand the reason why.
But Andy Rowe didn't ask that. Andy Rowe asked what you wanted your team to be, James.
Oh, I put Finn Russell in there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, why would you put Finn Russell in there?
Because he's my mate.
But you said earlier Finn hadn't played. There's no form.
No, he hasn't. No, but I don't get what you're asking. Are you asking who I wanted?
Who do you think should be starting?
If you were head coach,
who do I think should be starting? All right, I think Owen should be starting. I've said it. I'm sorry.
So you're going Owen. I'm going Dan Biggar again. Centres, I'm going Bundy Aki and
Correct,
Robbie Henshaw.
I've gone exactly the same.
Wingers, I've gone Josh Adams and Anthony Watson.
With Liam Williams at fullback.
Yeah, the bomb diffuser.
There we go. So we've done the same.
What do you think about the game plan that's going to change?
I just think we need energy. We need someone like Bundy Aki to give us a focal point in attack who can both play out the line and be physical and confrontational when needed.
Even though he hasn't played well on tour, he's got that thing in him where, like, if you can win the line out, i.e. Jamie George, and you can get 9 out of 10 balls off the top into the hands of Bundy Aki running at 100 miles an hour. I'm being a bit of a naughty. You've got Owen, who's got a great boot on him, who can ask questions around that. And you've got players with X factor who can score. Anthony Watson, Josh Adams. Yeah, you've got a chance. And whether or not having a chance is enough, it shows how probably unconfident I am.
Thanks, Goodey. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Patricia, Tim, and thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube as well, and head on over to Spotify, and we'll see you all there.
Rugby Spod.
Spotted pod.